Hi everyone, today we are going to be looking at section 3 from Curva. Our learning objectives for today's lesson are to gain knowledge on the choreographic content and production features of section 3. Our extra challenge is to begin linking the choreographic intention, the choreographic approach and the stimulus to section 3, and our literacy focus is to use dance terminology throughout the lesson when discussing the choreographic content and production features. For our starter task, I want you to watch section 3 of Curva. Whilst watching this clip, I want you to note down what you see. This could be, for example, the lighting design that has been chosen or the movements that the dancers are performing. Note down as many points as you can, as this will help you throughout the lesson. As we have now watched the clip of Curva, I want you to get out or download the section 3 booklet. It should have 4 pages, which would consist of the aural setting, the lighting, the staging and the choreographic content, which we'll be looking at today. Using the notes you wrote down in your starter task, I want you to spend about 3 minutes putting them on the correct pages in the booklet. We are going to start by looking at the staging of section 3. Using the image, I want you to label and describe the set, staging and performance space. Remember to think about the type, the location, the colours, the shape and the backdrop of the performance space. You have 3 minutes. Section 3 is performed on an empty stage. There is a raised platform upstage where the 4 musicians perform. There are 2 lights stage left that shine onto the dancers. There is black flooring, wings and backdrop, and it is performed on an end stage. We can also see that there are 5 male dancers and 1 female dancer, which means that there is an uneven ratio of dancers. At the bottom of the page, there should be a box which asks you to highlight if the performance environment suggests a certain aspect. I want you to go through and highlight any of the phrases that you think the staging suggests about the piece. For example, you could highlight the sentence "bare stage" so that the focus is on the action content. This is correct as there is nothing else on the stage which could distract the audience. They can therefore focus on the movements that the dancers are performing. You have 2 minutes to highlight any other phrases. You should now have lots of different ideas for the staging of section 3. Make sure you have written down and highlighted each of the aspects that I've discussed, as well as your own ideas. We are now going to move on and look at the lighting of section 3. Using the image, label and describe the lighting. Remember to think about the colours, the direction, the shape, the effect, the intensity, and any shadows that the lighting creates. You have 3 minutes. In section 3, there are 2 lights stage left which create a whitewash on the stage. This is very different to the majority of the lighting designs in the Linha Curva and therefore provides a contrast. The lighting in the other sections that we have looked at follow a coloured grid creating a checkerboard effect on the floor of the stage. Why do you think that Galeli chose a circular, almost spotlight effect for this section? Was it to focus the audience on the characters on the stage? Was it to spotlight the men showing off to the women? Think about the choreographic intention of the piece. Now go through and highlight if the lighting suggests a certain aspect about the piece. For example, you could highlight the phrase "provides contrast" as this is the first major lighting change of the piece. You could also highlight choreographic intention as the spotlight could suggest the men being centre stage, wanting all of the attention on them and showing off to the women. You could also highlight the phrase "non-dancing performer" as the lighting highlights the female dancer just watching and observing the men during some point of this section. You have 2 minutes. Next, we are going to look at the aural setting of section 3. I want you to create a mind map to describe the aural setting and the accompaniments. Your extension task is to analyse how the aural setting is used effectively. Remember to think about the different instruments, the time signature, the style, the volume, the speed, the music-dance relationships, any silence, or if you can hear any of the dancers' movements. This section contains lots of different types of accompaniment. The main aspects that I chose were the repetition of vocal sounds, some moments of silence, the berimbau and drums, and an upbeat rhythm when each of the types of accompaniment are layered. Now go through and highlight if the aural setting and accompaniment suggest certain aspects about the piece. Think about how this section links the choreographic intention and stimulus. You also need to look at the music-dance relationships of this section and highlight the correct term. Are the music and dance in direct correlation, or do they just mutually exist or disassociate from one another? You have 2 minutes. Finally, we are going to look at the choreographic content of section 3. First, I want you to describe key motifs from this section referring to the action, space, dynamics and relationships. Secondly, I want you to move on to naming any structuring devices and form within this section. And thirdly, I want you to move on to the choreographic devices box, naming any of the devices that are visible within section 3. Write down as many examples as you can. An example of a motif for the movement content is when the male dancers perform a rhythmically sustained jump, thrusting the pelvis forward abruptly into a grounded plie with their hands behind their back, before jumping the feet together sharply and placing their hands in front of the knees suddenly. This motif is performed fluidly and very repetitively. The motif is developed by adding a pike jump when the men shout, "Hey, hey, hey." This motif travels from upstage left to centre stage. It then travels backwards towards upstage right. By leading with the pelvis and through facing the female soloists, it gives off the sense that the men are showing off and flirting with the female dancer. For structuring devices and form, an example of what you could have written down was narrative. In this section, it is clear to see that there is a celebration of the Brazilian way of life. There is also unity between the male dancers when they are showing off to the female soloist. For choreographic devices, this section uses repetition and motif development as the male dancers repeat the motif I described and through adding a pike jump. When they perform this motif, they also perform it in unison and canon too. Your final task is to highlight if the choreographic content suggests a certain aspect about the piece. You have 2 minutes. Well done for today's work. We have looked at the staging, lighting, aural setting and choreographic content of section 3 from Curva. For your homework, you now need to download and complete the homework table. This homework table asks you to write down how the aural setting, for example, supports the contributions of the piece. The contributions could refer to the choreographic intention, the stimulus, or the choreographic approach. You are then required to give your personal interpretation of the aural setting and then how the aural setting affects the audience. Make sure you use the booklet that we have completed today to help you with this homework.